Hello, it's Greg Harrelson here, and we're getting ready to do our little hangout with Harrelson. And Scott, I appreciate you helping us facilitate this. Of course, Mitch is getting everything ready with the computer and logging in and whatnot. And I thought I'd just take a couple minutes to start off and just kind of share with you what I'm up to, and kind of the intentions that I've set for this hangout and why am I even doing this. You mind if I just kind of share that, Scott?
Yeah, absolutely. That's great. I think that's perfect for everyone to know.
Yeah, so I get a lot of people that call me constantly and say, hey, this is my situation. Either they tell me I have a real estate agent on my team or in my company, or maybe they're the agent themselves, and they just call me up a good bit and they ask me questions like, well, what do I do in this situation? And what do I do, if this occurs? Sometimes it's about goal setting, sometimes it's about scripting. And so I thought, with Scott and Frank's help, I thought that I would just start doing maybe a hangout once a month where I take one of my agents and I kind of introduce you to that agent, share with you what, where they started, where they are now, what their goals are for the next year, where they currently, what their production level right now, and then just kind of go into what type of things that they're going to have to do over the next, say, 3 months or 4 months in order to make sure that they reach their 2015 goal. So I just want to continue to do that, and in hopes that maybe somebody watching this video will get something out of it, get a nugget, and they could take it to their own marketplace and do well. And then, of course, you also get a good view as to how I coach my real estate agents and my commitment to developing agents and helping them grow their business, in hopes that you yourself, or if you know anyone that's thinking about getting into the business or just wants to increase their business, maybe you'll consider me and pass me a referral. I'm always looking to add to the company. So that's where we are,
Awesome.
Scott. I know you might have had some questions that you wanted to share just to kind of get started before we started with Mitch. What's on your mind?
Yeah, so like I know, when I talk to a lot of agents, and I try to, with these hangouts that I've been doing, I'm trying to really keep the perspective of the agent that's listening, right, or watching. And
Hmm.
and I think a big thing is, where do you even start with a new interviewee, someone that you're bringing in to even know if they're a fit for the position, a fit to be a part of this team that you're building, this profession that you're building for people.
Yeah, and that's a good question because people are always asking, well, how do you find these agents that eventually become top producers? And the reality is I never really know what an agent's going to do. I have to take a chance on them. They have to take a chance on me. But I think the thing that I've done correctly, and I'm sure I've done a lot of things incorrectly, but some of the things that I know that I've done correct is I've been very transparent about who I am when it comes to actually leading a real estate company. So in other words, I look at myself as being a real estate coach. Okay, and I'm not in a coaching company. I do a lot of business with Mike Ferry, and Mike Ferry is actually my personal coach. So I love their coaching firm. But what I do when I get an agent that's thinking about coming into business or coming to my company, I just share with them who I am and say, hey, look, my whole goal is to help you reach your goals. My goal is not to set your goal. You don't have to reach my goal, but I just want to get into your world and get an idea of what you're up to, and then see how I can, assist in getting you there, getting you there faster. And if we start off our relationship with that type of conversation, then the entire time they know what to expect from me. And then as a coach, I can talk to them about what I expect from them as a student or as a player. And then from that point right there, that's where the relationship is established and the ground rules are laid.
Excellent.
And let's face it, if they're not into coaching, that doesn't mean that they can't come to my company. But because I set it up that way in the beginning, they
Hmm.
tend to ask me a lot of questions. Therefore, I have opportunities to help develop their careers.
That's great. I mean, and it sets them up for what to expect, and it sets them up for success in the long term, knowing what they're going to get from you and what they have to give in return. To work within the system that you've built there.
Absolutely. I see Mitch there. You want
Yeah.
to do a sound check to make sure that we can hear him?
Mitch, you good? Can you hear us?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Good.
Great.
Good.
Thanks for.
Okay. Well, Well, great. Well, if you want to, Scott, we'll just go ahead and get started. And, again, for the audience out here, this is going to be like a really like a coaching call. Or if I was, face to face with Mitch, this would be something that today's conversation is going to be very similar to what a conversation would be like if he and I were just in a coaching conversation in my office. And so, anytime I have a structured coaching, either a meeting or sometimes I say a coaching call because I do a lot of them over the phone. Whenever I'm doing these coaching calls, I come with, with questions and come with information that I'm hoping to share with him, as well as come with questions in order to pull things out of him. So, we're just going to do it just like that. And I'm going to get started because people, there's a lot of people on here that, or will see this, that don't know who Mitch is. And so, Mitch, why don't we just start with kind of sharing with people, who you are? I mean, how long have you been licensed?
I've been licensed for going on just about 8 years, so it was around 2006 that I
Wow,
got my
that's a
real
long
estate.
time.
Yeah.
Okay, so you came into the business at 2006. That was an exciting time, huh? Right when the market was at the peak. And
Yeah.
so, what was it like? I'm just kind of curious, like your first few years in the business, because you came in at the top, and then you saw this market come tumbling down. What was it like for you in your first couple of years?
My first couple of years, when I got in, it was right at the point where we knew that the market was going down.
Okay.
So the conversations that the agents that at the time here at the company that were having with clients were exact opposite of what I expected when I got into real estate. Because I got
Hmm.
into real estate expecting everything to be going up, and the conversations where everything's going down.
Yeah.
So be quite honest with you, it was very confusing at that time. And I remember during that time the conversation was, well, if you're a new agent, it may take you 6 months to a year to get your first paycheck and to be
Yeah.
ready for that. And so that's kind of how it felt. It felt very like the ground was shifting underneath my feet at that point.
Yeah, I'm sure, because I mean, 2006, everyone again thought it was going up, and I guess it might have still went up just for a little bit longer before it really crashed. But it kind of I think of a question: why did you actually get into real estate? What was going on? Why did you even get into the business?
Um, I had read a book called Rich Dad Poor Dad about real estate investing or investing in general, and I tried to go and buy a property
Hmm.
that was right down the road in Conway, where I'm from. And when I got into a contract, and then about 14 days in, the banker called me and said, I can't finance this, even though I was pre-approved. And I said, why? And he said, well, it's a modular home. And I
Hmm.
said, okay, what is that? And he was like, well, it's a modular home, meaning that it's not built like a stick-built home. I can't finance these things. And he said,
Hmm.
well, didn't your agents tell you this? And I said, no. And then that got to me thinking, if I wanted to know anything about real estate investing, then I better learn how to sell and buy real estate as an agent. So that's why originally I got into the market.
So you got in thinking that you were going to just learn some things about the real estate business that would help you become a better investor and kick off your
Become an
investment career.
investor.
Become
Become an
an
investor. Yeah.
become an investor. Okay, I've heard that before. I mean, I wouldn't say everyone gets into the business because of that, but that's actually I do know that other people have done the same thing. So, a couple years after you got in, I remember you kind of disappearing from the office. I think you were in the business, and then you either got out of the business, put your license on hold. What was going on at that time?
Um, from my point of view at the time, what these guys, what the agents were doing in the office, and what it was beyond what I thought I could do. Like having conversations on the phone about telling people the truth about the market and the market we were in was just very
Hmm.
difficult for me to wrap my head around. I was not used to confrontation, and there was a lot of confrontation going on. There, a perceived confrontation. So I was scared to come in the office and make phone calls, quite honestly. So I wasn't making any money. So I went back to what I had known before, which was I was just getting out of college, and I was delivering pizza. That was the main thing that I was doing during that time.
Yeah, yeah. So when you say confrontation, are you referring to the confrontation where you would call somebody to generate some business, and back in 2006 and 7, these people had paid, say, 400,000, and now their prices were starting to go down, so they were underwater. Is that the confrontation you're referring to? Is they were confronting conversations because you were kind of the bearer of bad news?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
That was the thing that I had a hard. I had extreme call resistance no matter what.
Okay.
So it was difficult for me to make phone calls, and it was on top of having those conversations that made it just be unbearable for me at that point. I couldn't wrap my head around it, so I just went back to what I knew.
Yeah. Okay. So then you left the business. Now, did you went and started delivering pizzas? Okay, which
Yeah.
is, I love this story because, to
Huh.
me, I remember you being, this young, in a way, a kind of a young kid, and here you are getting into real estate, really don't know what you're doing. You get into real estate, things aren't going so well, so you bail on the real estate business and you start doing whatever you got to do to make ends meet, which happens to be delivering pizzas. And I think when you came back to real estate and came back to the office, I think you were still doing a little bit of deliveries part time. But tell us about that moment where you said, okay, enough of this. Now I'm going to get in this career, because in a way, this is your second time really getting serious about your career. So what happened? What was going on in your head? Was there a moment in your life, or what got you back in and got you committed?
Well, if you remember, I was working for another agent here at the company,
Hmm.
as an assistant, which is how I ended up back in the office. I just had a license, and it was better than delivering pizzas, so I started working for him.
Hmm.
And then what got me to actually get on the phone was I saw one of his paychecks, and I
Mm.
said, "Wow, okay, this guy gets a paycheck. He pays me for 3 months on one paycheck." So I knew it. I knew it was a page turner because I would get after working for him from 8 to 5. I said, "Well, I'll just get on the phone and I'll just kind of practice from 5 to 7 at night, 5 to 7:30 at night, and I'll see what I can get." And then I got about three. I had ended up with like three pendings at the same time after about 2 months, and I said, "Whoa, okay, I can do this. This is something that I can do." And that was the
Yeah.
time. That was the turning point for me.
Yeah, so it's interesting. Remember, Mitch, for those that are listening, remember, Mitch is starts off, how old were you when you first came to the company the first time?
22.
22. Okay, so he's a 22-year-old kid getting into to real estate, and all of a sudden, he goes out of real estate fairly quickly, starts delivering pizzas, comes back in, works for another top agent in our company, kind of works under him as an assistant, doing a lot of the servicing activities, but also doing also prospecting, and then all of a sudden he started seeing the money, or seeing results, and then his confidence started to build. And I just wanted to share with you, this is very, very common where you'll get somebody new into the business. They'll come in solely working on their own. They'll lose confidence and they'll go out of business and never do it again. But he came back in and he worked under somebody. And because he worked under somebody, he had a mentor guiding him. So the risk of failure I won't say were completely gone, but the chances that he would fail with somebody else guiding him was very, very unlikely, because when he was prospecting, he would generate a listing lead or a buyer appointment. He could run that through his mentor, his agent. And by the way, that was Brendan. For some of you might know who Brendan is, but that was Brendan. So he could collaborate with Brendan about that particular lead. And then maybe he didn't know how to approach it, so Brendan would tell him how to approach it. He would go out and do that listing appointment, and he would land that listing. And every single time, I bet, Mitch, every time you landed a listing, your confidence grew that much more. Would you agree with that?
Oh yeah, definitely,
Got
definitely.
it. Okay, so then you went on your own, and then you kind of stopped being an assistant for him, and you went on your own, and next thing you know, I started coaching you more and more and more, and here we are today. So tell me, how many deals will you close this year? I know you're on. I think you're on track for about 80, 82 deals. Is that somewhere in that range?
Yeah, I would say between 80 and 90 is where I'm thinking I'm going to end up landing.
Okay, and 2 years ago, where were you?
2 years ago,
Yeah, two
uh,
years ago, where would you have been?
third, 30. around 30.
Okay. So listen, I mean, this is great. So in 2 years' time, you went from 30 to say 80 or 90, on track to close 80 or 90 this year. And we're already into the last quarter of the year, so we kind of know based on his pendings. How many pendings do you have right now?
14.
14 pendings right now. Are all those listing pendings, or some of those buyers?
Every single one's a listing.
Okay, wow. So here we go. 2 years ago, 30 deals. And by the way, 2 years ago, 30 deals for you, that's actually a good number. And for a lot of people on this hangout, that is a good number for them. But what I think is you really got serious and you got your confidence and you got your head straight about 2 years ago. And look how quickly you grew. Now you got 14 pendings. And how many active listings do you have?
65.
65 active listings. So to me, you've got a stable business. Now, how many listings do you typically get per week? What is your average listings per week?
4 to 5.
4 to 5 listings per week. That's pretty solid. So, okay, we know let's just call it 80. Okay, you're gonna do 80 deals this year. What is your goal for 2015?
120.
120. Okay. Now, as a coach, not only for the company, but even having the experience that I've had many years in, say the Mike Ferry organization, we know that going from 80 to 120 in 1 year is a big jump. That's a 50% increase in business. So really, it's unheard of, okay? But if you look at it, if you went from 30 to 80 in 2 years, you've already made those types of jumps, okay? So that's important for everyone to know that you have done this before. Now, I've always coached you, and I said, your first 100 deals is always the hardest 100 deals. But after you hit 100, to get to 200 is a lot easier, or to get to 150, because of the systems and the structure, the infrastructure you have to have already in place. So then at that point, you can just kind of build more business. You've already got all the staff, the structure in place, so you're just adding on. Right now, you're still adding to. You're not just building on top of it. So let me ask you this. A question that I have here that I wrote down is, what is it about you and your current business, your current business structure, 80 to 90 deals this year, what is it about you and your business that gives you the confidence that you think you can actually reach 120 deals? I mean, what is it, what's good about what you got going on that gives you the confidence that you're going to be able to pull this off?
I know that all I have to do is make the contacts. All I have to
Okay.
do is make the phone calls.
Okay.
I know, my skill set is to the level where I can get listings, and I can price them where I need to be able to price them for the seller to be able to sell. So at this point, I know that all it takes to get from the 80 to the 120 is making the amount of contacts and calling the people I need to call every morning.
Okay. So when somebody says all I have to do is make the contacts, another way that I like to look at that, and this is my observation of you as an individual, has nothing to do with anyone else that could be listening to this hangout, is that one of the things about you making more contacts, another way to say this is, we need more people to have the opportunity to hire you. See, making contacts is one thing, right? It's like, okay, I'm just going to come into the office and I'm going to grind. I'm going to pick up the phone and dial, and I'm going to dial, and it's just a numbers game, and it takes hundreds and hundreds of no's to get a few yeses. A lot of people that are listening, they think of that, and then all of a sudden they're like, that's not what I want to do. But the key is that is just one way for you to get in front of people. And I think one of the qualities that you have that's going in your favor is when you get in front of people, the way that you present listings, you seem to get those listings. Your conversion ratio is very high. So yes, you got to make more contacts, but the reality is you need to give more people in our local area, in our local market, the opportunity to actually hire you. So that means you got to go on appointments. Contacts is one thing, but we need you to be on more appointments. So thinking again about your, achieving 120 deals in 2015, what is it about your systems or your business or you personally, your own personal habits? What is it about you and your business that you're afraid of, that you're saying, gosh, if there was going to be something that was going to get in my way of achieving my goal of 120 deals in 2015, what would it be? One or two things.
I think the biggest issue that I have is concentrating for just the small amount of time it would take to get the. I know I have a couple other like pillars that I can add to the business,
Mm-hmm.
and yet whenever I go to start doing something like that, it's almost like my mind shuts down. Like, okay, well, if you're going to go concentrate on this business part for 2 or 3 hours, like building a business or setting a system in place, shouldn't you be on phone calls? Or why do you even have the time to do that? You should be on an appointment right now. So
Mm-hmm.
I think right now it's the mental block of, gosh, working on the business instead of working in the business. Right now I'm reacting, and if I'm not reacting, then I'm making myself guilty
Mm-hmm.
about setting up a new system and getting myself to another level.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So one of the things that I'm hearing as your coach is, first of all, I'm going to throw out the term business maturity. Okay. So that doesn't mean, Mitch, that I think that you're lacking business maturity, but we can all become more business mature. And so when somebody's doing business and they're doing 50 deals, 60 deals, 70 deals, and the form of their generation is prospecting. They're self-generating all this business. What they're doing is they're grinding. That's very common for you to be a grinder. And I would say that you're kind of a grinder. You show up every single day at 7:45. You're generating for 3 hours a day. You're doing all the things that we've ever, said that need to be done in order to build a big business. But the reality is people on the outside say, gosh, that's a grind. Now, keep in mind, everyone, that's only 3 hours a day. There's plenty of people that are on roofs right now pounding nails for 9 hours a day. I actually think that's a grind. This is really not a grind. But the key is even in your own mind, Mitch, there's a chance that you're looking at more business equals more contacts. More contacts means more grind. See, if you're looking at this from the real estate agent's mind, you're thinking in order to get more, you got to do more. If you're looking at it from a business person's mind, you say this: in order to get more, you got to think more. In order to get more, you got to leverage more. In order to get more, you got to plan more. In order to get more, you got to schedule better. It's time management. See, all you have, Mitch, all you have is time to sell. And we know you got 24 hours a day. I don't know how much sleep you have. You get per day, but the fact is you have a certain amount of time that you have to sell, and you have to figure out how to best leverage that time. I will always think that you should leverage a portion of your time prospecting like you do, but now the question becomes, what are you doing with all the extra time? So what do you do after 8 to 11 and you're generating business? What are you doing?
Going on appointments. That would
Okay.
be maybe on average, let's just say one a day. Some
Okay.
days two, but on average, I would say one a day.
Mm-hmm.
Handling any like offers that come in, doing a reduction or two reductions a day.
Mm-hmm.
That would be my typical day. If any clients need something right then, and I'm the one who should be handling it, i.e. if it's like going to be a good conversation for a reduction, that kind of item, then that's what I would be handling too, incoming stuff like that.
Okay, so if I was to look at your schedule, first of all, do you have a schedule?
Yeah.
Okay, is it written?
Yes.
Okay, so if I was to look at your written schedule, if I was to look at Tuesday between 2 and 4 tomorrow, would that schedule look the same if I looked at Tuesday between 2 and 4 the next week? And
Yeah.
the next week, and the next week, and the next week, and the next week.
Well, no, it wouldn't, because when I created my schedule this last time around, I created like a floating schedule, which I don't think is working at all.
Okay,
So,
well, tell us about your invention of the floating schedule.
all right, so let's say if I'm I set an appointment for 1 o'clock or 12 o'clock or whatever, then I have a list of things I got to do every day. So I make sure if I go at 12, then at 3 o'clock I do those items. But if I don't have an appointment, then I'll do them at 12 o'clock. So that way I do all the items that I need to do. But it's just, if I set the appointment precedes everything else.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think that's really working. I mean, it hasn't been. It leaves it. It's more complicated than anything else. It's kind of confusing.
Yeah.
It ended up being that way.
Okay.
I can't follow it.
So here's one of the things that I want you to consider. Consider that one of the reasons why you're so good at getting listings is because you're very good and consistent at actual prospecting. But let's look at the characteristics of prospecting. Let's look at your prospecting. What time do you start?
8 a.m.
8. What time do you finish?
11.
Okay. And how many days a week do you do that?
5.
And how many weeks a year do you do that?
45 weeks.
Okay. And how many years have you been doing that?
Well, 4 years.
Okay. So the reason why you're so good at getting listings is because for 4 years, for 45 weeks, 5 days a week, 3 hours a day, every single day, you've been doing the same activity. That's called chunking. See, the reason it works is because if I look at your schedule tomorrow, at 8 to 11 it says generate business. And the next day it says generate business. And the next day it says generate the business. So what we want to do is we want to take that one thing that we know is working. That's probably the only thing, or I shouldn't say the only thing, that's probably the one thing in your schedule that works better than anything else. It's probably the one commitment that you have in your schedule that you're more committed and consistent than anything else. And here's the reason. Because you don't have to think about it. It's just what life is. It's just your ritual. Now what you want to do is you want to look at other times of your schedule and other activities that you're responsible for doing every single week, and you need to put them into your schedule and do those activities the same time of the week every single week. You want to chunk these things into time slots into your schedule, and you want to be very robotic. You want to know that at Tuesday at 1 o'clock between 3 o'clock, I just do listing presentations. At 3 o'clock to 4 o'clock, I do updating my sellers or price reductions or whatever they may be. What ends up happening, if you'll create a schedule that has blocks of time, people will fit into your schedule versus you trying to fit into other people's schedule. The only way you can, Mitch, fit into anyone else's schedule is if you're constantly rearranging yours. And if you're constantly rearranging your schedule, you have no schedule. Therefore, you will not get the same results in those activities as you are getting when it comes to the prospecting time from 8 to 11. So, Mitch, tell me this. If somebody comes up to you and wants to do something between 8 and 11, Monday through Friday, what do you tell them?
No, I'm prospecting.
Okay. Yeah. But if somebody comes up to you at 2 o'clock and interrupts you at 2 o'clock, what do you tell them?
What's up? What do you need?
Yeah, please take my time. I'm bored, so I don't really have anything in my schedule. Sure, I will say yes to whatever you're asking me. Yeah. So the key is what I would, my coaching to you and what I really want you to hear and really I want you to take away is, when we get off this hangout and, in the next couple of days, I really want you to really take a list, a notepad, and I want you to, of course, have your schedule in front of you. But I want you to list out all of the tasks, by the way, generating task, all of the generating tasks that you're responsible for. So if it's negotiating, that would be a generating task. If it's prospecting, it's a generating task. If it's adjusting prices, it's a generating task. If it's follow-up, it's a generating task. If it's sending an email to all of your owners, your listings, that is a servicing task. I don't want it on this list. It does go on a list, but not on this one. That's servicing. That's not generating. So what I want you to do in the next couple of days is I want you to take all the generating tasks that you're responsible for. Then I want you to write next to each one of the items, the task, I want you to write down yes or no. Is this a repeatable task? Meaning, is this a task that is repeated over and over again? And if the answer is yes, then I want to know what the duration is. Meaning, is this a daily task? Is it a weekly task? Is it every other day? Is it once a month? So you're going to have tasks that fall into the generating category that are repeating, and some of them are going to repeat daily, and some of them are going to repeat monthly. So what I want you to do is I want you to get all that on the list. Then I want you to take your schedule and start putting those items into your schedule, and then make sure that you put them as reoccurring items, reoccurring tasks on the proper frequency. Is that making sense?
Yeah.
Okay, so once you do this, what's the first thing that's probably going to happen that's going to knock you off track here?
What's the first thing that's going to happen? Knock me off track?
Yeah, when it comes to the homework that I just gave you, or the suggestion that I just made, why isn't this going to work?
Why is it?
Yeah, assuming it's not going to work. I mean, believe me, and you know this as just by being in relationship with me, as well as observing how many hundreds of agents that I've helped through many different processes of the business. I mean, how many people are really going to do what I say and actually execute it all the way through? So let's just go ahead and cross the bridge that you're going to fail to fully execute. I just want to know why you're going to fail at fully executing, and let's go ahead and deal with that right now. So if we deal with that right now, guess what will happen? You will actually eliminate that as an option.
Mm-hmm.
So I like to know what the obstacle is I'm about ready to hit, and then go ahead and address it before I hit it, so it never appears. That's my strategy, at least.
Well, the obstacle would be like anything else. Like what you're asking me to do is going to interrupt the activities that I'm already doing.
Yes.
It's just, that's what's going to. I mean, I might never get to actually writing it down because I'm too busy already following my non-schedule as it is.
Got it. Good point. So you're already in this routine, and now all of a sudden you've got to take time to retool, to rebuild, to reinvent, either not necessarily yourself, but to reinvent yourself in this particular area. Let's just call it time management. So the key is what we have to always know. We all of us will agree to this when it's said, but we just seem to not follow it. And that is, if you keep doing the same things, you will get the same results. If you want to continue to do what you're already doing, then you're going to continue to do your 80 deals. If you actually want to have a 50% increase, which by the way is off the charts, if you want a 50% increase, then you have to totally pretty much throw away everything and start over, but you're starting at such a good place because of how much you already know. In other words, just about nothing will look the same next year in order for you to do 120 deals. Everything will look different. The one thing that'll look the most different, though, instead of you walking around like you're a real estate agent, you'll be walking around like you're a businessman. That's going to be the difference, and that's going to start in the mind. So you have to be thinking, okay, I'm not going to let anything get in my way from doing this particular homework, because what this is taking control of my time, and that's what a businessman does. A real estate agent typically allows the consumer to control their time. Think about it like if you were a doctor. I mean, do you just call the doctor up and say, hey, I need to come in here, I'm going to come into your office at 9 o'clock on Wednesday? They would say, no, I'm sorry, you're not, because you don't fit in my schedule. But a real estate agent, if anyone else says, hey, I want to meet you at 9 o'clock, okay. And you can't do that. You can't be saying yes to everybody. We got to make sure that you treat your business like a business. So what are some other coaching, some topics, some questions or whatnot that I can help you with?
Regarding the schedule, so let's say like if I have a repeating activity like reductions, right?
Okay.
So what I was trying to do is like get, let's say over the week, let's say a reduction a day, right?
Okay.
So what would mess me up is like, okay, I got a day that I get in one appointment, right? and I got,
Mhm.
okay, 2 offers that come in. And
Mhm.
then I'm like, okay, so that is taking up the day. Or maybe I even got 2 appointments that day and 2 offers. So you can see how that would take up some time getting back and forth and getting everything done. So I miss out on the reduction. So when you're
Mhm.
saying repeating activities, do you mean like what I'm thinking of it as is like blocking time, but let's say on every Tuesday between 3 and 5, that's when I do my reductions for the week, or something like that. Instead of like doing it, trying to get everything done in one day on the schedule, like blocks of time every day, I'm
Mhm.
actually scheduling that stuff in like that. So let's say if a client calls in, what I'm getting from what you're saying is, let's say somebody calls in, and I could say, well, it's Monday. I could have Susan, my client coordinator, schedule them for Tuesday when I'm actually going to be doing that stuff. Is that
Yeah.
kind of what you're talking about?
Yes. So it's just the perfect scenario. Yesterday you set up a listing appointment for tomorrow at 2 o'clock. Okay, and then you didn't even know it, but all of a sudden, tomorrow morning you get 2 offers come in on your listings that you have to negotiate. At the same time, you had it in your mind that you wanted to talk to 3 or 4 different owners that needed that you needed to have a conversation with about adjusting their price, and all of these things, and then you call those owners, of course, and then they're not on, you don't answer it, so then they call you back at a time that you're not really ready for them to call you back, and all this stuff just kind of goes on in spite of you. That's what a typical real estate agent's business is like. So here, what you have to look at is negotiations, for instance, that you never know when they're going to come, right? That offer just pops up into your email or into your voicemail or fax machine, and they say, okay, I got this offer. So you got to be thinking about, what is your procedure for handling offers? That's where you start. So here's an example of a procedure. As soon as the offer comes in, it should go directly to your assistant. Your assistant should get that offer, print it out, immediately call the other real estate agent that's involved, assuming there is one, and acknowledge that they have received that offer. Then they need to immediately call your owner, your seller, and they have to say, hey, look, we've received an offer. Mitch is in appointments until 2 o'clock, but at 2 o'clock, he wants to talk to you about this offer. What is the best number for him to reach you at 2 o'clock? Then you get another offer in. You go through the same procedure. Your assistant calls the agent, calls the seller, and says, Mitch is in an appointment, but he's going to be out of his appointment around 2:20. He urgently wants to talk to you about the offer that he's getting ready to get in his hands. Where can he reach you at 2:20? You see, so there could be a certain time of the day where your assistant could prep your owners that you're going to be calling them back. See, the key is when you do this, number one, you're doing the right thing for the other agent. You're acknowledging that you got the offer. Number two, you're scheduling an appointment with your seller, but you're not having to do any of this. Your assistant is scheduling an appointment with your seller, and because the appointment is about presenting an offer, your seller will be there. You will not get their voicemail. They will be waiting right there. You'll have sellers pull off the side of the road to make sure they don't miss that call. Because what we have to avoid is when we get that offer and we prepare, and then we call the seller, and the seller's not there. And then all of a sudden they call us back, and we're not there. And then we call them back. That one simple task could take days to negotiate because of all the phone tag. But if you'll follow this little procedure, your assistant's actually setting up appointments. So then it's one call, one contact, one decision. And then so you do the same thing with price reductions. You should already know next week what houses or what owners you need to talk to about their pricing, or updates or marketing, whatever you're going to talk to them about. And you should have your assistant calling them and saying, hey, Mitch is going to be doing some good research on your property. He's just asking me to gather some things together. He's going to be doing some research and wants to talk to you on Friday. He has a little gap of a window of time between 10 and 11 set aside. What's the best number? And then they're going to say, oh, well, we're going to be traveling. Oh, okay, no problem. He's also going to be doing this on next Monday, and he has between 2 and 3. Would that be better? Yes. Then so that now your assistant, you got 5 owners that you need to talk to. Your assistant calls all 5 of them and sets them up on 20-minute increments. And then what she does to kind of fully make this more efficient is then she goes to the MLS, does a new CMA for you, pulls out the file, pulls at the showing reports and all the other things that we might have, puts it all in order, and you've got a call at 2, a call at 2:20, a call at 2:40, and a call at 3 o'clock and 3:20. You got your 5 calls, all the preparation is done, all you got to do is show up. They're waiting on the phone. See, the challenge is negotiations and reductions, they take hours when they should take minutes. But see, a business person would not be thinking, oh, I've got all this to do. No, a business person would be, I've got all this to delegate, or I've got all this to, either to delegate or to organize. I've got all this stuff that I need to have somebody else do. That's what a top producer, a business person's got to think, and that's the place you've got to be.
So, Greg, I'm going to jump in a quick question because I think you're hitting on a really big painstaking part for a lot of agents, and they're stuck in this limiting belief of, I know for you and me and a lot of other people, when you look at your calendar, you're probably looking at it and going, all right, how can I be more time efficient with that and get it off of my calendar to the point where I'm having someone else do that for me? So
yeah.
that business mindset of looking at your schedule and then making sure that you're being proactive with your day, not reactive. And I think you're hitting on those 2 points of where agents feel like they have to be doing a lot of this stuff, especially when they're talking to the client, that they need to be handling that, but it puts them in this reaction mode, not the proactive mode. So hit a little bit on how important that is, and this is great for Mitch right now because this is something that is going to take him to that next step that he wants to hit for next year if he's able to do this, right?
Yeah, and please, everybody that's watching this hangout, you watch Mitch. He's gonna do it. Okay, I can tell you, he's gonna do this 120, and I'm gonna make sure he does it if that's what he really wants. So yes, to further touch on it, basically, there's a few thoughts. I mean, Matthew Ferry used to say to me when he was coaching me years ago, if it's not in your schedule, it doesn't exist. Okay, so then that means you got to schedule everything. Well, then comes another challenge, is then if we take on that mindset and we schedule everything, then it's like every single second is accounted for, and it's really overwhelming when you look at your schedule. You've scheduled every 5 minutes, right? It's pretty overwhelming when you look at that. So then what you have to do is what I think is most important is this, is Mitch, what he needs to do, and this would be another assignment for you, Mitch, you need to go ahead, and you've probably done this before, but you need to take a separate yellow notepad, and you need to write down income-generating activities on one side of the sheet, and then income servicing activities on the other side of the sheet. Okay, and list out all the things that are involved in running your business, all the servicing things and all the generating things, and then declare this. Make this one declaration. For 1 solid month, I will never do a servicing task. Now, here's what's going to happen. You're going to find out that we commingle our day, bouncing back from servicing to generating. Mitch, you should be generating all the time. That's all you should be doing. You have fantastic staff to be able to help you service. Now, what will happen for a lot of us when we do that, we'll find that servicing our business takes up about 80% of our time, or 90% of our time, and only about 10% of our time is generating. Well, good. I want you to find that out, because you won't believe how uncomfortable you're going to be during the day when you've got 8 hours and only 1 hour is generating, and the other 7 hours you can't do anything on the servicing side. You're going to be wondering, what have I been doing? So everything that is a servicing activity can be delegated. Now all of a sudden you realize, wow, I'm only really spending a few hours a day building my business. What if I added 2 to 3 hours of additional generating activity? That doesn't mean 2 to 3 hours of prospecting. That means just of things that are generating focused. And I think, Scott, and Mitch, like your feedback on that, but that's where people don't understand. Real estate agents don't understand. They've never taken a stopwatch and done a stopwatch test. I challenge you, take a stopwatch, and every time you're doing something that can generate income, turn the stopwatch on. And then when you lose your focus on that activity and you're doing something now that's not income generating, turn it off. And then at the end of the day, you'll realize that you probably only spent about 1 hour of your 8 hours actually doing business, and the rest of it was wasting time. Hey, Mitch, have you ever heard how much, like Serena Williams, great tennis player, she'll play a 4 hour, say a 3 hour tennis match. Okay, you've probably seen that. Do you know how much actual time, if we do a stopwatch test on her, do you know how much actual time they spend in a live point out of 3 hours?
No, what, 30 minutes?
Less than 15 minutes. They're actually only in a live point for less than 15 minutes in a 3 hour match. Sounds like a real estate business right there. As
Right.
people spend hours and hours, they're in motion. They look like they're busy, but the reality is they're getting about 15 minutes of quality work out of 1 hour of movement. And
Wow.
that's what I want you to really focus on, Mitch, is this next year is I want you to really focus on spending all of your minutes doing quality generating activity. If you will do that, 120 deals will be easy. As a matter of fact, you're already, with the fact that you've got, I think you said 14 pendings. Mitch and I have been working on this probably for the last couple of months. We've been in conversations about him doing well over 100 deals. So we've got a little head start here, and the fact that he has 14 pendings right now is nothing more than is the momentum that he's going to be carrying into the new year. And so he had to have this type of momentum to start off. So in January, we got to make sure he has a lot of closings. He can't just be starting working in January. His 2015 goal and business plan actually started on October 1st, 2014. So you got to have 3 months ahead of time for anybody that's listening. You got whatever you want to do for 2015. If you haven't started it on October 1st, you're about 10 days behind, so you better get on it quick. What other challenges, Mitch, are you facing, and how much time do we have, Scott?
We got about 10
down.
minutes. Yeah, we got about 10 minutes. So anyone that's on right now, if you have questions, the Q&A is on the right. We'll get those questions answered for you. But yeah, I really think you hit on a pain point there where people get stuck. And I think if Mitch is able to adjust that time on his schedule, that based on the momentum that you were talking about, you should be able to kill that amount of deals next year. It's pretty exciting, man.
Yeah, so Mitch, what is it goes back to the way we started. You said I need to make more contacts. Mm-hmm. I agree. I think we agree to that. And the result of making more contacts, the intent of that is for you to get into more appointments, because we know your conversion ratio is really high. And so you doing face-to-face presentations or even over-the-phone presentations, which I know you do a lot of, you doing listing presentations is probably the most valuable use of your time. So what are some ideas, what's going on in your head? What is maybe something else you need to do in order to increase the amount of presentations that you're making?
Well, I'm looking at adding pillars to my business. Who can I, not only but who can I call, but who can I get to call me? Because you're right, as soon as I'm in presentation mode, that's where I'm going to be getting a lot of listings, because my conversion ratio is high. So the people that I spend the time with and get there, they're worth it. So the more people I can get over this next year to call me or to click in or email in, the better chances I have of getting. It's fishing in a stocked pond instead of going out there and just beating the bushes and finding the sellers every day.
Yeah, so for those that don't understand what we mean by pillars, so prospecting, let's say that Mitch calls, some expireds. So that would be a pillar. It's a form of generating activity. For sale by owners could be a pillar. Cold calling could be a pillar. Centers of influence is a pillar. A pillar is it's a generating activity, a certain type of generating activity. So what we're saying here for you, Mitch, is you've got to add some pillars. Most of your pillars are all prospecting type pillars. Do you have any other pillars that you're thinking about adding off the top of your head, or are you still exploring?
Getting in touch with more agents in the market who have had listings that failed to sell.
Oh yeah, that's a great pillar.
Kind of developing the relationships with them so that
Hmm.
they feel comfortable sending me the people that are about to expire or that they don't feel that they could handle the lead. Not
Yeah.
just in our company, but in other companies. That's
Yeah.
one pillar. That's like the one that I'm working on right now to get it up and running.
Well, so let me tell you, let me share, because there are some people, in the Myrtle Beach market that are on this, that are going to be watching this hangout. So for anybody that has a listing, what Mitch is referring to is if you're a Myrtle Beach real estate agent and you have a listing that's going to expire, and you know that you're probably not going to relist that. Either it's overpriced, you don't want it, they've made you mad, you've made them mad, who knows? We all have those scenarios. If any of you have listings throughout the year that are going to expire or maybe withdrawn, why don't you call Mitch? Give him a call a few days before, maybe a week before that actually hits the MLS as an expired, and send him a referral. He'll pay you a referral fee, and his chances of getting that is very high. And our philosophy is this: 25% of something is a lot better than 100% of nothing. So, give him a shot. It's better to lose it to give it to him than to lose it to somebody else that's not going to pay your referral fee. So, the last question that I have is this, Mitch, is what is the one thing in our relationship, maybe that I've shared with you, I've told you, I've coached you, I've showed you, what is the one thing that you can say, gosh, this has probably had the biggest impact on my business or life?
I think you were always honest with me about, because when I came in the business, I met the Greg who had been in the business for 14 years at that point. I met um, business owner Greg, right?
Okay.
And what a lot of things you share with me in our different conversations was how it was in the beginning. So you made it very clear to me about where you started and where you're at now.
Hmm.
And so that made it very real to me that I could go along the same way. That I could go from, delivering pizzas to being a top agent. It
Hmm.
wasn't. It made it very real that you just didn't walk in the business and all of a sudden you were doing 400 deals a year. You were, you started out and your dad were working. So I know your whole story. So I
Yeah.
think that has been the biggest influence on me. And then on the other side of that, watching exactly how you are now with people, right, who are saying you got a minute, you got a minute, you got a minute, and how you coach people and how you live on a daily basis. So I watch that and I've seen that too, and so I go, okay, Greg does it this way. So if I'm going to be doing things that Greg's doing years from now, I need to start walking in that fashion.
Okay. Well, good. I appreciate that. So, one of the things I think that and we've worked together for a long time now, is I'm not one of those that likes to coach you based on a book. I don't pull out a book and say, here's what the book says. I typically like to coach based on experiences. And so, one of the things that I did is I was a prospector. I did focus on generating. So it's not by chance that majority of the agents that are doing very well at one of our companies is doing it because they're consistently generating. So I appreciate this. I know that you're going to do the 120 deals. I'm going to continue to coach you. If there's anyone on this Google Hangout that's going to have a referral, for Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, could you please send it to Mitch? It'll make our lives easier. If we can get 10 referrals from you guys, then that's just 10 less deals we have to create, or I guess I should say we're creating it right now. Any last thoughts, Scott?
No, I think this is really great, and yeah, like you said, anyone that's there too that wants to. I mean, what would an agent do that's watching Greg right now if they wanted to reach out? And are you doing consulting for bringing in new people into the business? What's that? Tell me a little bit about that if they wanted to reach out to you.
Yeah, so so what I'm doing is, again, a lot of times, and I forgive me if sometimes I confuse the audience. I mean, I'm not a for hire real estate coach. I'm not working for any coaching companies, and no, I do not have a coaching company. What I'm doing is I just look at my real estate company, in Myrtle Beach and in Charleston, as if it is a coaching company, and any agent that works for my company, they get me as their coach. So, if there's agents out there that are thinking about getting into real estate, then I think I'd be a good option for them to talk to. And if there's other agents that are out there that are really wanting to hit some big numbers and grow and get over these hurdles, maybe they've hit a plateau and they want to figure out how to get to the next level. I mean, I'm excited to help agents develop. So just reach out to me. I'm here in Myrtle Beach. I can be found on Google. Pretty easy to find. But I'm looking to grow the team. I'm not one of those that's out hiring hundreds and hundreds of agents. I'm looking for people that are serious about their business and just want to grow. If they want to grow, I want to help grow them.
Awesome.
That's us.
All right, Greg. So what can we expect from the next hangout again if people are going to keep watching this series?
Okay, so in another month, we're going to have another real estate agent. I'm not sure exactly which one it's going to be. It may be Jeff Bueller, who has been in real estate, but he's with another company for the first 2 or 3 years of his business. He transferred over to us and has, seen some quantum leaps since he made the transition. So I'm going to kind of talk with him and see what's going on in his mind and see what I can do to coach him. And one thing that might be helpful, Scott, is if anybody just wants to, email us, questions that they wish that we would actually, address in the next hangout, then that's perfectly fine. I mean, any suggestions? I'm really here. I'm not selling anything. I don't have any product to push on anybody. I'm here actually just to help Mitch out and then let some other people observe how we're doing it in hopes that they can be assisted at the same time. So, I need the audience to tell me what their needs are, what kind of coaching they need, and if they'll share with me what they would like us to coach on, then I'll support it.
Awesome. Well, thanks, guys. That's it for this hangout. We'll see you in a month, Greg, and we'll keep coaching and training. This is fantastic for agents that are trying to learn.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thanks, Mitch.
Thank you.